Hello, this is a short and simple video demonstrating DATEX II modeling and schema generation. You can find longer videos with more background and explanation on the DATEX II YouTube channel. In this short video, let's say I want to extend an existing DATEX II model and schema in a backwards compatible way. So in the browser, I've come to the DATEX II documentation site, that's docs.datex2.eu. And I've come to the downloads section of the current version, which happens to be 3.4. And let's say I want to extend the situation model because I have a new requirement that isn't yet supported in DATEX II. I want to make an extension. So on this page, you have all the individual modules that make up DATEX II, and I want situation. So I could start with an empty model and import situation and the namespaces it needs in turn. But even faster is to come to the pre-assembled models for convenience and download a bundle. If I download the situation bundle, I'm going to do that because it gives me situation and the other things it needs, which are common and location referencing. Now today we support both EAP and QEA file formats, which are used by different versions of Enterprise Architect. In today's demo, I'm going to use the EAP format in version 15. So here, I'll rename it so that I can recognize what it is. Bench demo, situation demo, that's fine. I'll open that in Enterprise Architect. While that's opening, so let's say my scenario is that I want to be able to express the confidence that I have in the information being valid. And let's say it's the confidence in the source of the information. And I'll show you when Enterprise Architect opens how we might do that. Situation is a fairly large model, so it takes a minute to open. But here we are. We have the normal tree of DATEX II, and under payload publication, in the whole of DATEX, there have been many namespaces, but we just took the situation bundle. It was all we needed, so we have just situation. And here is the situation record class diagram, in which you see situation record has a number of properties. One of them is information about the source, such as, is it reliable? But that's just a Boolean. Let's say in this, for the purposes of this demo, we want to be able to express numerically the confidence. So for example, like a percentage, a statistical confidence in the source. So it's the percentage confidence we have in the information being valid. Now, source is actually, it's used here, but it's potentially used in other places too. So it's in the common namespace of DATEX II. So really what I'm going to do is extend common, but I'm showing situation to give a more realistic context. Okay, the first thing I need to do then to create my extension is to create a home for it, which I'll do here. We have an extension namespace of DATEX II. And by convention, that's a good place to put these kind of small backwards compatible extensions. So the first thing I'll do is create a place under there. So in DATEX II, normally the way you create structural elements is to drag objects from the UML profile for DATEX II in the resources pane in Enterprise Architect. So I will create a namespace. Let's call it confidence extension. Okay, that'll give me a place to work. And you can see in the hierarchy tree, now under extension, I have this namespace. And I'll give it some properties. You would only need to do this once for your whole extension. A couple of properties. I'll give it a definition because it's always good practice in DATEX II to give things definitions. And I'll give it a namespace prefix, which is something that is used in some of the schema generation. So let's call it, it should be something nice and short that can be used in a schema file. Let's call it confidence extension. Fine. And then as a place to work, I'll add a diagram. Default name's fine, class diagram, fine. We have this diagram to work in. So we want to extend source, and source lives under common classes. So drag that in. I'm not recreating it, I'm just creating a link from this diagram to this thing in common. I now create my first new element in the extension, which is going to be a new D2 class. Let's call it source extended. That's just a convention, it could have called it anything. And let's give that a definition. So, for example, extension of source to add numeric confidence. Okay, fine. Now I want to make source extended an extension of source. And to do that in DATEX II and still retain backwards compatibility, a level of that, then I use this D2 level B extension. And to create a relationship in DATEX II, rather than dragging that onto the diagram, I have it selected and then I drag between the entities on the diagram. I've created my D2 level B extension. That means that where a system is expecting to see a source, it will also accept a source extended. Okay, next I want my attribute, which was the whole point of my extension. So I'll drag a D2 attribute onto source extended. And this is the confidence. And there's an existing data type in DATEX II called percentage. There we are, data type percentage. That's what I want. I have my attribute. I'll give that some simple metadata. I'll give it a definition. Let's say percentage confidence that information provided by the source is valid. And I also need, for schema generation purposes, an order number, which should be unique in the class. Doesn't matter what it is, but it should be unique in the class. That can generate, can influence the schema generation. So, fine. And I could make that mandatory because it's the only thing in the source extended, but I think I'll make it optional. So that you would do that by multiplicity, change the lower bound, effectively makes it optional. Okay, so we have an extension, simple extension with this extra attribute. I now want to export this model so that I can use it in schema generation. So with the top level selected, D2 payload, top level of DATEX II, I'm going to publish that whole thing, export XML. This will use the standardized XMI format. Yeah, confidence.xml is fine. We'll put it in there. So that'll give an export, a serialized export of the UML model that we're then going to read in schema generation tools, create schemas. And then we can use those schemas in our programming. Okay, it's happy that I've got a successful XMI export. So now I'm going to go to the DATEX II schema wizard in the browser. So I've come to webtool.datex2.eu /wizard, and well, you don't need to remember that. Basically, remember DATEX2.eu. That's a portal to all the tools. You can find link to the docs site and the schema generation. Because this is a short video, I'm going to skip through a lot of the options quickly, take the defaults. Other videos you see explaining this in more depth, but I'm going to do the basics. So in this case, it's not a predefined model, it's our own model because we made an extension. So I will load this confidence file that we just made. It might take a minute to parse because it includes the whole of the situation model, which is a fairly big model. Okay, I don't need any special pre-prepared selections. And today I'm not going to talk about profile selection. That's explained in other videos on the YouTube channel. I am going to include some locations. I'll just take them all. Say, yeah, we might use all of those locations with our situation with confidence. And I do need a situation publication. I'm just going to take the whole thing. That's fine. So I'll have a situation publication. It will have source, and that will bring in my extension. Now we get to choose what we target. By default, it's XML schema, but you can also choose JSON schema, and that's what I'm going to do today. Or you can choose ASN.1 definitions. But we're going to go with JSON schema, and we're going to say generate. Okay, and we have results. We have schemas generated, but let's check the log before we look inside the schemas. I'm going to check there are no errors or warnings. These messages, system messages and debug messages, all look fine. It's reassuring me that it has not found any problems. Yeah, and it's created schemas and there are no errors or warnings. That's good. So let's look inside what it's generated. I have this zip file and it has these JSON schemas. So in the confidence extension, for example, we see this construct source extended, which has property confidence, which is of type percentage. And then implementations will accept that when they see, when they expect a source object. Okay, I'm gonna keep the video short and stop there. Thanks for watching. Bye.